Hello, everyone. Welcome to Humanities 101. My name is Geoff Johnson, and I'll be your instructor for the course. When we talk about the humanities is different from a lot of the other disciplines that you'll be studying in college in that we're not really specifically focused on one particular thing. You go into a literature class, for example, you'll be talking about either poetry or prose, drama, myths, okay, but it'll primarily be focused on the written word. If you go into an art class, you might be looking at painting or sculpture or something related particularly to the artistic field. If you go into a business class, you'll be talking about economic systems and at the same time how one manages to run a particular enterprise there. When we talk about the humanities, we're talking about an assemblage of human artifacts basically looked at through a multiple number of disciplines. We'll be dabbling with archaeology, we'll be dabbling with geology even. We'll be talking about things like agricultural science. We'll be talking about, of course, literature and art, politics, history. We cover a wide gamut. Now, this course, Humanities 101, focuses on basically the rise of human culture from its earliest origins, running around about 2 million years ago up until the year 1500. We also take a world cultures approach in humanities at San Diego Mesa College. And what that means is that we are not fixated on one particular region, like, say, Europe. We'll be talking about things that are happening in Asia. I'll be talking about ancient cultures in Australia, in Africa, Latin America. And I'm saying this because now you're probably asking yourself, well, wow, if you're going to be talking about some 2 million years of human history throughout the world, that's a heck of a lot to cover. And how in the world are you going to do that? Well, what we're going to be doing is we're obviously going to be picking and choosing and pointing out and looking at specific things. What you have to understand, and I'm trying to stress this, is a generalist course. And so we're going to be looking at broader themes. Now, that doesn't mean at times the information can't get very specific. And if you're not paying attention or you're letting things lapse when we go through and do the work, it can pile up. But what I'm trying to do with regard to any of these periods is kind of get at some very basic things, very basic ideas. When we talk about the humanities, I think what we're doing is we're talking about sort of a reconstruction or a reimagining of what these worlds, these times, these situations, these civilizations were like. And that will be from when we're starting off in places like the Great Rift Valley and looking back 2 million years ago to later when we're actually, looking at things in, say, the Gothic era in Europe. What was it that was going on? What were the things that were driving people? What were the things that people were doing in terms of their interactions? What were their aspirations, their goals? And what did they create? And in the process of looking at that, the other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about, well, if we're looking at all these things in the past, what does that say about us in the present? For example, one of the great dramas that ancient peoples had to face was climate change. We talk about the changes brought about by the Ice Age, resulted in a tremendous transformation, a move away, in many cases, away from hunter gathering to pastoralist and even planter based culture. Another thing we can talk about is communication. You take a look at, for example, your average cell phone here. This is about the same size as a Mesopotamian writing tablet, which was a tool used obviously for communication. And so in some respects, we're kind of at the same place. Now we're imprinting on basically an electronic device to communicate with people far away from us. But at the same time, what was happening with the ancient Mesopotamians is they were imprinting on a clay tablet so they could record and communicate information with people both near and far as well. Now, over the span of the course, there's going to be a number of different things we're going to be going into. We'll be looking also at, say, for example, religion. We'll be looking at the factors that drove the religion or what drove particular political movements. Later on, you might find somewhat interesting to note that when we talk about, for example, Greek culture, the rise of democracy in Athens, the rise of democracy in Athens was driven, strangely enough, by poor agricultural techniques practiced by the Athenians when it came regard to wheat farming. And when we take a look at that, one of the things that I think we're going to find here is that human culture is driven by often a need to respond to environmental changes or the changes caused by other cultures or the interaction with other peoples. And at the same time, it's also driven by this idea of looking for opportunity, an opportunity for change, an opportunity for a better way of life. Now, at the same time, when I say that, one of the dangers we have in terms of looking at the humanities is to think of things in terms of, oh, now we're moving to a society that is more advanced or more developed. The thing I'm going to ask you to do is to resist thinking in those ways. What we have to do is we have to look at human society and human culture as developing in different stages in different ways. In some cases, you might see the rise of this highly centralized civilization. And some people might think, oh, well, that's great. Well, it might not have been great if you were somebody in that civilization who happened to have been oppressed or you found your rights were limited. Maybe you might have preferred being in a civilization that was more decentralized. Maybe, in fact, what some people might call more primitive. And again, we're going to want to try to resist those terms. By doing that, we can try to develop a way of looking at these cultures, I wouldn't say dispassionately, but basically in a more accurate way to get a sense of who these people are and to find a better way of relating them to ourselves. I hope you enjoy doing this because I'm going to enjoy teaching you. Thank you.